Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It is time to have a look at the sales which are going on for War Thunder. There's a bunch of packs which are either 50% off or 30% off, depending on when they're available. In the video, we're going to go through all of the vehicles. This one will specifically go through naval and helicopters, but understand there will also be a ground and a planes one later on. Might just take me a little bit more time. So, we start off with the H-64A. This is the Greek Apache, which is in the American tech tree, and it's pretty much your only option to efficiently grind out the American tech tree if you want the helicopters. The vehicle is a rank 6, which means it can research pretty much all of the helicopters in the tech tree. It gets access to, of course, the Stingers, even M9Ls if you want them, and also the Hellfires, which are hit and miss at best, but it also has the IRCM, it has the thermals, and the pretty decent optics to be able to move it around. Overall, this vehicle is very good. It gets a bad reputation, basically because it isn't as good as some of the other ones, which are around similar BRs, but the H-64A can do incredibly well. I don't know why people sleep on this one, probably because it isn't a KA-50, which is usually what I hear when looking at these vehicles. The USS Arkansas is also on sale, the thick boy. It's very odd when it comes to America, because you have, of course, Kansas and Arkansas. One of my favorite videos when it comes to the internet as a immigrant to America who is basically asking, why is this Arkansas and why is this Kansas? It's a very, very good question, if I'm honest. The Arkansas in War Thunder has pretty much everything you would want from a larger ship. It has the 6 dual 12-inch guns. They don't have a great fire rate, but most of these vehicles don't. It does actually have a better fire rate than some of the other ones that are around. 12 inches are not the biggest that we have in the game, but they'll still be able to punch, and once again, you do have a nicer fire rate for it. You also have 6 single 5-inch guns, not a great secondary. You can see them in here, these little areas, but it does have some pretty good AA defense. So 8 3-inch guns, 6 quad 1.1-inch guns, the good old typewriters, and then also 26 single 20mm all over the place. So it isn't the 40mm and the 20mm that a lot of these American machines have, but it's good enough, you know, it'll be able to set stuff up. With the broadside that this thing has, it'll be able to do quite a lot of damage, and then also the amount of armor that it has is not as much, once again, as other ships, but it is good enough to withhold hits. It's a vehicle that, after they, I believe, removed the Des Moines, is the only one which you can really buy to be able to grind out the American Blue Water Fleet. I would always say the Moffett or the Helena is probably a better pick, especially through the GE sales, since it is a funner BR. At least for me, but if you need something to grind out the whole tech tree, this isn't a bad bet. It just might be a little bit slow, a little bit boring, but do remember, America is already the best blue water nation, and it only goes up from here. There's a lot to really like about this vehicle, and to also really enjoy, so definitely worth it. The Marat is also on sale. This is the Soviet high-tier kind of battleship, which is available to purchase. One of the interesting things about these Soviet things is they're super low to the kind of waterline. So just to kind of show you how low they are, this is how deep they actually go. So the actual silhouette that they have above the water is really, really tiny. So hitting them can be a lot harder than many others. The Marat is one of those which has been kind of remodified, and this is the better version of it. So it has the 4 triple 12-inch guns at 6.7, and also has the 2.2 rounds per minute reload, same as the Arkansas, but it also has just a metric ton of random guns on it. So you have the side guns, the 120mm, you have 7 each side. You also have 6 76mm and 2 dual 76mm, basically sat on top of the turrets and then back here. Then also 37mm and 12.7s. So it has AA, it has secondaries, and it also has some big old beastie 12 inches. Once again, not as big as other vehicles, but the actual profile of this thing is a lot better than many other machines around the place. It's harder to hit the ammo, it's harder to do damage to these things. When the Imperatrice came out, it was actually very, very good because of the fact that it was a lot harder to hit and also had a bunch of nice rounds to it. So the same with the Marat. If you actually have a look at the 305s, you have, of course, the APC-BC, you have the SAP, and then you also have the other HE on top of the standard HE, the 1911, and then also the 1921, which is in the place. This HE has more explosive mass, so it hits a little bit harder. The vehicle itself is completely fine, grinding out the Soviet tech tree. Overall, it has a lot of niceties to it. The only thing I would say about this thing is, unless they go kind of crazy with the Soviet stuff, there isn't really a lot of expansion for the tech tree, and also there needs to be some BR decompression for a vehicle like this to be a little bit more useful compared to some of its counterparts. The Princess Eugenie is also on sale, or the Prinz Eugen, as it's known, the Prinz Eugen. The vehicle is kind of the gold standard for heavy cruisers in the game, has been for an incredibly long time, where stuff such as the Americans have been able to create some amazing light cruisers. This one has been a dominant force in the heavy cruiser area for a millennia. It actually got upped in BR more recently because they stopped people scripting with it, which I know sounds really weird, but basically what was happening with the Eugenie was there was a ton of people using it to bot with or to script with, and that's because it has insanely high rewards and also a very low repair cost. So it was very easy to use even just with a script. This kind of shows the power of this machine, kind of like the Moffat and the Helena, which were also used in this general role. So that kind of just gives you an inkling of how powerful it was. Since then, though, it has gone up in BR, but Naval has been decompressed twice over the period where it's gone up in BR once, so it still is in a pretty nice position. It has 4 dual-mounted 203s, which are here, and then also here. You also have 6 dual 105s, which are scattered around the place in little turrets. You have 18 40mm Bofors on the vehicle as well to keep you going. You also have 6 quad 20mm on it as well. This was one of the first proper AA workhorses when it was added. You also have a ton of torpedoes as well on both sides of the vehicle, just in case you kind of wander into the middle of a bunch of fights. But yeah, this vehicle's really good. It's better than its standard tech tree counterpart, the Admiral Hipper, basically because it has access to more crew, so it has more survivability, and also a few other little areas too. The 203s have a really good fire rate. The armor on this thing is good enough to be able to stop a decent amount of damage, and also at the same time, it's not easy to ammo rack this thing because the ammo racks are surprisingly small compared to the actual machine itself. So for me, the Eugen is really good. I've faced it many times and can only say it's, as I said, one of the mainstays in the heavy cruiser class. The Dupleix is also on sale. This one did not last very long. I've got to be honest with you. I feel like this machine was one of those which has only been around for maybe a few updates, even if that. It has the 4 dual 203mm guns, which is super nice. Kind of a decent setup on the guns, but the major issue with this and a lot of French machines is it doesn't actually have a lot of armor. You can see that the armor is really interestingly modeled in a bunch of different little ways. It also does have core bunkers, which helps its center to be able to defend against damage, but mostly it is very much like a heavy cruiser by guns and a light cruiser by armor profile. So this means that it can get torn apart by many other kind of cruisers, but it can also dish out the damage at a pretty decent rate. I was very surprised to see that this one wasn't actually a kind of tech tree vehicle, since France was lacking so much in this area. But my guess is, with the addition of the other premium, they've just decided this one isn't worth picking up for people. You have 4 dual 90mm, 4 dual 37mm, and also 4 13.2s in singles, and 2 quad 13.2s. So the AA on this thing is very weak. It's probably the way to put it, but the secondary 90mm are not too bad. You do have to rely a lot on your 203mm, but one of the things that has to be noted about the French is they do actually have a very good SAPBC. So a lot of their guns do pen a decent amount and also able to retain their kind of explosive mass or TNT equivalent. You can see here with the HE, it has 9.13 kilos of TNT equivalent, but with the additional pen of about 100mm, it's just a fragment lower in the explosive mass. So overall, it's a lot nicer for the French, which is why it's actually really fun to play their vehicles. If you haven't played the French naval stuff, I highly recommend it. As somebody who has ground out, a lot of them, obviously these two were added afterwards, but grinding out a lot of this, what you have is destroyers with a hell of a lot of punching power, and also cruisers with the same. Survivability is pretty low, but if you want stuff which can just deal out damage, these vehicles actually work super good. And the Dupleix, I think, hopefully will come back in sales and stuff like that, since it hasn't been out for that long. But if you want to pick it up, I mean, it's a decent one to pick to be able to grind out the tech tree. The major issue is the two vehicles backing it up are 5.3s. You don't have a full lineup with the vehicle. As always, though, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.